Let's stay with that story. Joining us now in Cape Town, Good Party Councillor Jonathan Cupido. Jonathan, good to have you, and thank you very much for your time. Let me repeat that. I have been asked by the Mayor to ensure that the violence caused by some in the public transport sector is met with an appropriate response, and to remind them that we will proceed with impounding 25 vehicles for every truck, bus, vehicle or facility that is burnt or vandalized. Is this a helpful tone?
Good evening, Tabo. No, indeed it's not one. It is impossible for us to come and want to make threats when we are trying to resolve an issue. The best option would have been to call Santaco to the table and get Santaco to actually sit and meet and engage with the City of Cape Town and the Western Cape government so that we can find a resolution to this problem. Our commuters currently are struggling as we are speaking, and I'm sure on your feed you would know that many of our commuters that has left work at 3, some at 2, are still struggling to get home because of this sudden unrest that happened today. As good, obviously, we condemned the violence that transpired today by the taxi industry, and we're calling even on the taxi industry to basically come to the table and actually say to the City of Cape Town and the Western Cape government, let's sit down and let's have a decent discussion to actually get to resolve the challenges that they are facing.
I asked J.P. Smith last night, I was speaking to him, and I said to him, your stance of not wanting at least to come around the table and to speak to the taxi industry, to play hardball, so to speak, could result in this matter escalating and not affecting, I suppose, you as a city, but certainly affecting the commuters who use taxis. And this is exactly what has happened. Do you think the city knew that this would be the outcome?
Look, the city has received many warnings. Even in the media statement that I've released yesterday, I've also said that this is a time bomb, in the lack of better words. It's a time bomb waiting to burst. There is no way that we can just sit one side and we want to have this stance and we're not wanting to engage, or when we say we do want to engage, but we want to bulldoze that engagement, for obvious reasons, we would end up to where we are here this evening.
Yeah. What are the issues? I mean, from where you are reading it. I mean, he says I'm implementing the National Road Traffic or Land Traffic Act. It's a national law. It's not even the bylaws that are giving me the authority to impound these vehicles. And taxi drivers are saying, well, my vehicle is being impounded for not having a seatbelt, or I suppose turning into a wrong lane without even being given a fine or anything like that. Immediately the vehicle is impounded. Does the Act give the city that kind of power?
Look, the problem that we're sitting with is, yes, the Act do give you the power to do certain things. The Act do give you the power to impound vehicles. The bylaw that was created by the city is just to make it easier for them to impound vehicles, and in my view, basically just bypass certain of our systems. For example, going out and actually giving a fine when somebody doesn't have a seatbelt on, or when a tail light is out. These are the things that now is allowed to have a vehicle impounded. So when a tail light is out, for example, a traffic officer could pull over that vehicle and obviously give the person a fine. And should the person not pay the fine, then obviously it needs to go to the court of law. When it gets to the court of law and the person does not appear, a warrant of arrest is being issued for that person, and then that needs to be actioned, and we need to get the person then to the courts and have the person arrested as per the instruction of the court. Hence we have a warrant of arrest. So the process that is being followed, or the bylaw, the things that's within the bylaw, it's, in my view, a clear way of trying to bypass the court system. Now, when you look within the City of Cape Town, and we get quarterly reports from the municipal courts, we have up to 40% of the cases struck off the roll. And that is one of the biggest concerns that we have. So for more than a year and a half, the City of Cape Town, since I've been following, since we walked into the city after 2021, for more than a year and a half, and for the half a year that I'm serving on safety and security, we could never the officials could never determine or get to the reason why the cases are being struck off the roll. It would be for reasons like the fine was not properly written out. Those are the type reasons that was given, and because we could not get to the answer, my belief would be that the bylaw now is used to bypass that part so that we can just quicker get vehicles impounded. And if we get a vehicle impounded, we're easily going to get money out of people. Yeah. Where if it is that we go through the court system, we are not really going to get the money as fast and as quick as what we want to get it. And I feel that we should follow the proper processes since we have the law. The traffic bylaw is also clear in telling, the national law is also clear in telling us as to what processes need to be followed, and one of those processes is for the traffic officer to issue a fine. Yeah. And that is not what we're seeing.
Now, are these bylaws designed, as the taxi industry says, to throttle their operations and literally take them out of business?
One would not believe that that the design of it was for that purpose, but once we look at the action that we're seeing today, one can believe that yes, it was. So sometimes, you must always remember that when these bylaws and things are being done, it's done by a government, a specific government, and in this case, the city of Cape Town, that is administrated by the Democratic Alliance. So the Democratic Alliance within the city of Cape Town have their ways and means of how they want to get rid and make the city supposedly a safer place for our road users, and one would support making our roads safer for the road users. We cannot have these thuggery action on our roads. But what I'm wanting to say is that in that light, the bylaw should never be used to attack a specific industry, and that there was two industry straight. July came. The first thing we did was we targeted the taxis. The other thing that we did is the modified vehicles. We immediately targeted those vehicles. And what you saw, whilst they were targeted, we found Alderman Smith at a luxury club who also was in violation of the bylaw, and nothing has been done. So that would have that obviously caused and added to the frustration that is now shown by the taxi industry.
Do you think the walkout of the task team could have been avoided, but even this 7-day stay away that has now created the kind of chaos that we see could have been avoided?
Yes, it could. It's a simple thing. It's about sitting around a table and engage. It's not about sitting around a table and saying to somebody, this is how we're going to engage, and expect the person to just accept it. When you go and form a task team, it's for everybody to give their opinion and their views, and for everybody then to find an amicable way to have the issues and concerns resolved. But if you want to bulldoze that, you're obviously going to get people that walks out. And when we listen to the statement of Santaco today, it is simply because they were bulldozed in that workshops and for that, or that task team, and for that reason they walked out. So yes, we could have avoided it by simply not bulldozing the city's beliefs and what the city wants to implement upon the people. Government has a very, very perfect way of doing things, and that is called public participation. And if public participation happened right from the start in 2020, 2021 already, and these industries, or the taxi industry and all others, were invited to be part of that process and properly engaged, we wouldn't even have to had a point where we have to form a task team.
Yeah. We are sitting here now. One could maybe say this would have been the city being caught off guard, because there was no indication, at least up until this point, that the taxis would pull away immediately and leave the commuters stranded like this. Now we do know that this stairway is in place, at least for the next 5 days. Does the city have means to be able to cater for the transport needs of the most vulnerable, and by and large, these are the disadvantaged communities that are being affected here, who are unable to get home even now at 8 o'clock in the evening?
No, we don't. We have a rail system that is not running. To to full capacity. The taxi violence that transpired today would result in a bus service like Golden Arrow now not going out, and they would be very cautious as to how they're going out, or if they should want to go out over this next few days, for the vehicles to be on the road, because the vehicles might be burned. When we look at the My City buses, our rollout in the My City buses for the new financial, or not for the new financial year, but 2021, 2022, was very minimal. And we do not have additional buses and stuff within the city to ensure that we can now assist our commuters. So unfortunately, we don't have the necessary means to ensure that we can get everybody to and from work.
People will look at this, especially the people that you speak to in the townships and in vulnerable communities. They always say DA government does not cater in terms of services for those particular areas, and would look at the situation and say, well, this is again an indication of unpreparedness, I suppose, to deal with the challenges that face vulnerable communities, and therefore you can just willy-nilly leave them to their own devices. Would they be justified in that view?
Yes, they would, because the city of Cape Town has lost governance. The governing party has failed to govern, and that's the problem that we're sitting with. If they are able to govern, we would not be having the issues, because like I've mentioned earlier on, one of the means to govern is to be able to engage with your communities, and that we are not seeing. Communities are not privy to public meetings with the city of Cape Town. Community are not privileged to proper public participation processes within the city of Cape Town. So the community are correct when they are making that statement. We simply just don't have what is needed to ensure that everybody is part of a process. So no, like I've said earlier on, the city of Cape Town has lost, or the governing party has lost governance within the city of Cape Town.
Interesting line that you put in your statement, but you've made that statement now, but I want you to be a little bit more clearer on it. You're saying the Good Party agrees that, yes, the city needs rules, but right now it seems these rules are made just for those who drive luxury vehicles and not for all.
Yes, I've made that statement, and I will stick to my statement. We agree that the city of Cape Town and the country should have rules. If there's no rules, there will be no governance. If there's no governance, there will be no order. So we need our rules. But what we need to do is that we need to have processes in place to apply those rules. And that's where the problem is. It's the rollout and the application of the rule that becomes the problem. Like the discussion that we're having this evening about the taxi industry, there are processes that need to be followed, and those processes are not followed. Like Santaco has rightfully said, if you don't have a seatbelt on, you would get a fine if you're a normal driver. But if you're a taxi driver, they want to impound your vehicle. And that is incorrect. It should be the same blanket rule for every person across the city of Cape Town. And that's where we need to get to. We cannot have two different cities. We cannot have a group of people being treated in one way and another group of people treated the other way. Services should be equal and blanket across the city of Cape Town. In fact, when the mayor entered and he made his maiden speech, one of the things that he said was that he's going to ensure that services across the city of Cape Town to every resident within the city of Cape Town will be equal. And we are not seeing that even up until today.
Jonathan Cupido, appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on tonight. That's Good Party Jonathan Cupido. They've sent a note as well on their view on what is taking place. They're saying once again the city of Cape Town has descended into complete chaos. Commuters have been left stranded and buses are torched and highways are blocked. And they're saying the relationship between the city and Santaco has soured purely because of these rules that are being put in place that selectively applied to a particular sector of the transport industry. All right.